The Story of the Merchant and the Genius, Part 2, from Arabian Nights. The next morning, before day broke, Dinarzade said to her sister, "Dear sister, if you are awake, I pray you go on to tell your story." The Sultan did not wait for Scheherazade to ask his leave. "Finish," he said, "the story of the genius and the merchant. I am curious to hear the end." So Scheherazade went on with the story. This happened very morning. The Sultana told a story, and the Sultan let her live to finish it. Here's the story. When the merchant saw the genius was determined to cut off his head, he said, "One more word, I entreat you. Grant me a little delay, just a short time to go home and bid my wife and children farewell, and to make my will. When I have done this, I will come back here, and you shall kill me." "But," said the genius, "if I grant you delay, as you ask, I am afraid you will not come back." "I give you my word of honor," answered the merchant, "and in that I will come back without fail." "How long you require?" asked the genius. "I ask for a year's grace," replied the merchant. "I promise that tomorrow, 12th month, I shall be waiting under these trees to give myself up to you." On this, the genius left him near the fountain and disappeared. The merchant, having recovered from his fright, mounted his horse and went on his road. When he arrived home, his wife and children received him with greatest joys. But instead of embracing them, he began to weep so bitterly that they soon guessed that something terrible was the matter. "Tell us, I pray you," said his wife, "what has happened?" "Alas," answered her husband, "I have only a year to live." Then he told them what had passed between him and the genius, and how he had given his word to return at the end of the year to be killed. When they heard this sad news, they were in despair and wept much. The next day, the merchant began to settle his affairs, and first of all, to pay his debts. He gave presents to his friends and large alms to the poor. He set his slaves at liberty and provided for his wife and children. The years soon passed away, and he was obliged to depart. When he tried to say goodbye, he was quite overcome with grief, and with difficulty tore himself away. At length he reached the place where he had first seen the genius, on the very day that he had appointed. He dismounted and sat down at the edge of the fountain, where he awaited the genius in terrible suspense. Whilst he was thus waiting, an old man leading a hind came toward him. They greeted one another, and then the old man said to him, "May I ask, brother, what had brought you to this desert place, where there are so many evil genii about? To see this beautiful tree, one would imagine it was inhabited, and it is a dangerous place to stop long in." The merchant told the man why he was obliged to come here. He listened in astonishment. This is a most marvelous affair. I should like to be a witness of your interview with the genius." So he sat down by the merchant. While they were talking, another old man came up, followed by 2 black dogs. He greeted them and asked them what they were doing in this place. The old man who was leading the hind told him the adventure of the merchant and the genius. The second old man had not sooner heard the story than he too decided that he would stay there to see what would happen. He sat down by the others and was talking when a third old man arrived. Then he asked why the merchant who was with them looked so sad. They told him the story, and he also resolved to see what would pass between the genius and the merchant. So he waited with the rest. Soon they saw in the distance a thick smoke, like a cloud of dust. This smoke came nearer and nearer, and then all at once it vanished, and they saw the genius who, without speaking to them, approached the merchant, sword in hand, taking him by the arm, and said, "Get up and let me kill you as you've killed my son." The merchant and the 3 old men began to weep and groan. Then the old man, leading the hind, threw himself at the monster's feet and said, "O Prince of Genii, I beg of you to stay your fury and listen to me. I am going to tell you my story and that of the hind I have with me. And if you find it more marvelous than that of the merchant, whom you were about to kill, I hope that you will do away with the third part of his punishment." The genius considered some time, and then he said, "Very well, I agree to this."